Sure, sounds great. Sounds great.
Okay, let's start, Saad. So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. MashaAllah, everybody is here. I welcome you all to this new exciting episode of MUMKIN Corporate Majlis. So, welcome everyone. Saad, you take the lead today.
Sure. Welcome everyone. It's great to see so many people joining, and we're looking forward to an exciting discussion. Today's topic is about psychological safety and its impact on creativity. And we're really happy because this topic actually came from feedback after the last session, which was also a very engaging session. So thank you for the request, and we're excited to explore this topic. So in the first instance, we thought it would be good to define what do we mean by such psychological safety, and then we'll delve into why is it important in the workplace, and its importance in creativity in the workplace. So psychological safety is defined as, there's many definitions for it, but in essence, I'd like to, before we go psychological safety at work, let's define what is psychological safety as in general, and its importance. It's literally what the word means is you feel psychologically safe, and it's about feeling safe in your identity. The roots of psychological safety are actually in our evolution as human beings. Right now, we live in a very technological world. Everything is very advanced. But when we were evolving as human beings, we had to constantly worry about, are we going to get eaten up by the next carnivore or be attacked or something? And we were seeking resources, and our lives were a lot less comfortable even 300, 400 years ago. So our brains have been adjusted and evolved to have a deep-seated need for feeling safe and constantly looking for cues that make us feel unsafe so that we can act against this. And this is centered in the amygdala of the brain. So that's a bit of geeky science for everyone. There's a part of the brain responsible for this is called the amygdala, which is responsible for fight and flight responses, right? So a good example of this in action is in the workplace. If someone says something to you, like your manager or your colleague, that makes you feel threatened, that makes your identity feel threatened, then immediately the amygdala lights up. So even though in the reality is your life is not in danger, that's still how our brain feels, because that's how we are wired as human beings. And this is the basis of what it means to feel psychologically safe. Now, what is the importance of psychological safety at work, right? So at work, we all take our identities to work. At this stage, Coach Umair, would you like to add anything to what I've already said in terms of defining psychological safety?
Saad, you have very beautifully put it forward, but I would like to go back to the audience first, our participants. And I would like to know what comes to their mind when we say psychological safety, and what have, according to their experiences, what can they share with us about psychological safety? So over to the audience. Who would like to go first? Yes, Hisham.
May I tell you? Please go ahead.
Hisham, we are listening to you.
Okay, right. Assalamu alaikum. Thanks for the invite and the great session as usual. I think psychological safety can be defined as the ability to express yourself, your thoughts, your actions, your ideas without fear of consequences, whether that's in the context of work or even personal relationship or any other context.
Excellent. Yes, Mr. Abdul Wase. Yes, please.
Sir, according to me, psychological safety is psychological safety is may have a lot of aspects. For example, what image do we take to the workplace? What do we think about the workplace? What do we expect about the workplace, and what the workplace has effect on us, and what we are providing to the workplace? So this goes around these all things. And psychological safety to me in the workplace is that what do we expect when we are entering the workplace, and what exactly happens, and how to take control of it.
That's a beautiful way to explain it, Saad. What comes to your mind when you hear this?
I think that was a really, I think both of those are really great definitions by Hisham and Abdul Wasi as well. In that, they're going direct to the core of the conversation. Is like, what does it mean? Obviously, outside work, inside work. When you speak your mind, when you share an idea, how that idea is received. I think Hisham mentioned without consequences. I think that's the key thing of psychological safety, is that when you speak your mind and you feel that someone is going to perceive it negatively, or you feel that they're going to make fun of you or embarrass you, then coming back to also what I was saying is your amygdala lights up, which is the part of your brain responsible for the fight or flight response. And in that moment, you can no longer act rationally. You act defensively, emotionally, because your brain thinks that you have a life threat, even though you don't anymore. But this is how we've evolved as a species. And that's why it's so fundamental to work and creativity at work. So I'd love to hear more from others as well. So thank you, Hisham and Abdul Wasi, for contributing. Would anyone else like to share what psychological safety means to them? Don't be shy.
Can I share something? Can
Yes,
I share
please.
something over here? All right. So this is a recent incident, and what happened is I went to an organization for a meeting, and it was early in the morning, and I was trying to connect my laptop to the charger, to the power outlet, and somehow the power socket doesn't seem to be working. Did not seem to be working. So all of a sudden, I saw a tea boy who was passing by, and I asked him for help. He came inside the meeting room, and I asked him how to connect this power socket, and did not seem to be working. And he said, to my surprise, he said, "Well, I really don't know about this, and I cannot help you any further, because if my supervisor saw me helping you, then I'll be in big trouble. I'll be given warning, and most likely he'll ask me that this was not your job. Why did you go over there and help this gentleman?" That's okay, no problem. Feel safe. Go go back to your work. I'll find out my way. And then somehow I was able to connect my laptop, and the meeting started. So this was one part of the story. So almost a month back, I had almost forgotten about it. And almost a month back, another similar incident happened. So I was conducting a workshop at another place. And this time, in this workshop, I needed some pencils. Paper was there, but no pencils, and the participants did not carry the pens or pencils. So then I in a rush, I went out, and I wanted to find out some pencils from somewhere, or some writing device. All of a sudden, I found a tea boy again, and I asked, I asked him if he could help me finding out some pencils or pens or whatever. He said, yes, I can do that. And then the guy went out for the search, and I came back in the meeting room, in the meeting room, and I continued with the workshop. And I was not sure if this T-boy would ever come back. In a few minutes of time, the T-boy come back. And not only he came back with some 8 or 9 pencils and 2 pens in his hand, he also came up with a sharpener, because the pencils were blunt. What happened is he came into meeting room. He started sharpening the pencils in a corner, and started distributing the pencils to each of the participants. And we were so delighted by this act of his. Then later on, after meeting, the workshop is over, and everyone left. I went to this guy, and then I asked him that what made you do this. So he says, because you needed that, and I thought I could be of help to you, and that's why I did it. Then I asked him that, imagine if your supervisor had seen you distributing pencils or sharpening the pencils in the meeting room, what he would have said. He said, no, it's not a problem. My supervisor understands, and even if he had asked, I would have been able to explain without any problem. So now I would like to highlight this fact that in first case, the supervisor was a kind of person the T-boy was afraid of, fearful. In the second case, the T-boy was discomfortable with the supervisor, and he said very clearly that if the supervisor asked, I would just explain him and it would be fine. So I would like you to see in both of these cases, the junior leadership or whatever you call them, supervisor or foreman or the people who manage these team of T-boys, their behavior would make a lot of difference on how cooperative these people will be to other people. How far will they go out of their job domain or work domain to help others being able to perform their functions well, right? So when it comes to psychological safety, this matters a lot. Means how feel do you safe in raising your opinion? How feel do you safe in doing something extra which is not part of your prime responsibility? How feel do you safe that your neck will not be chopped off if you raised an alarm? So this is what all psychological safety is all about. Well, I've got more examples, but I would like the participants to reflect upon this and see if they can come up with some more examples or anything that reflects in their minds now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nayyar Bhai. So let's do some reflection on what Nayyar Bhai just shared. He shared two examples where in one example, the junior level leader or junior level member of the team was afraid of doing something which was not a part of his job. And in the other example, same level guy was not afraid of doing something which was not a part of his job. So what does that tell us? What lesson can we learn from this? Specifically with reference to psychological safety.
I think for me, Coach Umair, one of the very obvious things that's coming out here is related to how you perceive your identity, right? So if you feel safe enough to go outside of what you feel is the extent of your duties, then your sense of your identity is expanding, which is generally a good thing. And if you're not doing that, if you feel very like, okay, I'm just going to do a tick box, this is my role, this is what I'm going to do, I'm going to go home, it tends to indicate that there is an issue of psychological safety where you don't feel like you can deviate from your core role. So that's one thing that's really coming out to me in this discussion. And I'd like to explore a bit more of how identity is related to creativity as well, because that's a big link of what makes people feel creative. But before I do that, I just want to read some of the responses we have gotten on the chat as well. So Zain Samdani said, psychological safety is something so important as it can destroy a person's abilities to do what he or she is capable of, bring them down so much that they may even feel their life is meaningless and worth to finish it. Thank you for sharing, Zain, your definition, and certainly it is. Coach Umar, do you have any immediate thoughts about this?
Yes, well, what I understand from what Zain has written is that he probably want to say the lack of safety, psychological safety, leads to destruction of personal abilities. That's a very, very important point. So when we talk about linking psychological safety with creativity, that's exactly what we need to talk about. Like in the example with the example that Nayyar Bhai quoted about the guy who not only brought the pencils but also brought the sharpeners with them. So that's a very creative way of going out of the regular service and providing that service into excellence, he would not have done it.
Mm,
I mean, if he was not creative enough and he was not safe enough to do that.
yeah, absolutely. I see there's a hand up. Please, Coach Sumaya, go ahead.
Yeah, for me, I would say if someone is not psychologically safe in a working environment, so his creativity is lost, and at the same time, his self-esteem is low, and that person is not able to perform the way he should be performing at workplace. So psychological safety would be defined as that person is feeling safe to do anything that or whatever he's assigned to do. So if he's not safe enough, so his creativity is lost, as well as his self-esteem is getting low because he's not achieving the targets. And by not achieving the targets, he's actually, day by day, gradually, he'll be going down. And there's no, so unless and until he's got a mentor or a head who can provide him with some kind of safe environment and some kind of boost, then only he can go up.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. There was interesting research done by Google, and what they concluded in this research, it's one of the milestone researches in this area of psychological safety. But what and the research was around high performing teams, and the factor, or the number one factor which they found in high performing teams, was that the team feels safe at work psychologically. And to define it even more, to expand on that, the team feels safe to be vulnerable and take risks in front of one another. They feel safe to stick their neck out, and they don't feel that immediately someone is going to embarrass them or they might lose their job or something. So this was the number one differentiator between high performing teams, which I think really gives credence to the importance of psychological safety and its impact on creativity. I think just coming back to what is psychological safety, and how can organizations how can you define it, because there's different parts to it, and what does it lead to? Some of the major things that psychological safety impacts is innovation, engagement, collaboration, performance, learning, and quality. So as you can see, it's impacting many different pillars of work. And these days, organizations are constantly looking at how can we improve our collaboration? How can we improve our performance? How can we improve our creativity? And the one that I want to bring everyone's attention to is innovation, because innovation and creativity are very closely linked, right? So let's explore this a little bit further. And again, I would like to invite the audience to perhaps you would like to share any instance where you were able to share an idea and be innovative and creative due to a good psychologically safe culture in your team, or any instance where you feel you could not, and you feel that things would have been different if you had felt safe. We would love to hear from the audience on this as well. Okay, I'll share something since everyone's quiet, and then perhaps this will encourage other people to share as well. So I work in a really fast-paced industry. I'm an environmental consultant, and we deliver some of the biggest projects, these mega projects that are giga projects that are happening in the region. And this is often a case in these projects where a few years ago, I was based on a project, and everyone used to always be very afraid about what to say and what not to say. And it was a very politically charged project as well. It was funny because I was on this assignment for 1 year, and it really hit me when someone from another team, they observed something. They said, Saad, when you started this project on day one, you used to walk with your back straight and your head held up high, and you used to be, very positive and happy. And now after 8-9 months, man, I'm seeing you're slouched down, you're not happy. And that really hit me hard. I was like, wow, man, this is real. The people, even though at that time I was not self-reflecting enough, but someone from the outside could see the change in me, that I was being affected negatively by the lack of psychological safety, and by that negative atmosphere where people were not feeling safe and looking over their back. So I've personally experienced this, and in environments, and I've also experienced working in environments which are culturally very safe, such as my current employer, and I feel much more creative, and my team feels a lot more creative, and people feel like they can speak their mind. And I definitely, you can say that, Coach Umar, that I walk more straight these days than I did when I didn't have the psychological safety. So yeah,
Saad, we have a question in the chat. Abdul Qayyum has asked, if an employee doesn't feel psychologically safe, what should he do? Before answering this question, I think we need some clarity on this question itself. So we would like to know that in this case, is the employee not feeling psychologically safe in a psychologically safe environment, or is not feeling psychologically safe in an unsafe environment? So if you could please elaborate that. Saad, what do you say?
yeah,
Can I
I
say
think,
something over here?
yeah, please.
Yeah. So the question, let me read out the question first. The question says, if an employee does not feel psychologically safe, what should he do? So that means the employee is not feeling psychologically safe. So let's say irrespective of the environment, right? So maybe the environment is safe. If the environment is safe, that means the issue is there with the employee. Maybe he has a lower self-esteem or something which makes him not feeling, which makes him feel not safe, right? Now let's take it from a generic perspective so that we can address this. Now, if it is a low self-esteem issue, the guy needs to understand that if this is the case with everyone, or is this the case with only him, this person. So if the case is with everyone, that means everyone is feeling unsafe in that environment. So that means the environment itself is let's say toxic, and the environment itself is not safe. Now, if this is the situation, this needs to be addressed. If the person has the ability to address this, he can speak to the immediate supervisors or the managers who can develop the psychological safety over a period of time, gradually, little by little. It's actually the middle management in most of the cases which make or break the environment, especially related to psychological safety. So coming back to the point, he can go and speak to them. Now, this will happen only if the guy has got higher level of self-esteem and he can go and speak to the middle manager. So did I make my point clear so far? Right. Is this clear so far?
I think
Yes.
so. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now let's say if they let me clarify, right? So if the environment is okay, other people are feeling safe, but this guy is not feeling safe. That means this guy has some issues in his self-esteem, and then he should see a coach and work with him. And for let's say 6 months or a year, this is something that can be worked on. And there are I can count the people. I mean, I have seen people who have worked to raise their self-esteem, and they have been able to do that. Not one, two, or multiple cases. And once they were able to raise their self-esteem, they started feeling safe. Not because the environment was safe, just because their self-esteem was high enough to make them feel confident to raise their opinion in the environment, which they thought earlier was unsafe, right? So now we have addressed both of these situations. The first situation, let me summarize. The first situation is, or the second situation rather, that a guy is feeling unsafe. The environment is safe, but he has an issue. Other people are fine. So this is a good indicator, litmus indicator, that he should work on himself. And now the first case is that if everyone is feeling unsafe, that means the environment is really unsafe in that case. In that case, we recommend that you go and speak to one of the managers who you feel safe with and raise this issue, or raise this or speak about this challenge, and let the manager gradually change the environment over a period of time. One of the things that managers can make a big difference with is by giving the impression that they are also human beings. They also make mistakes and they can also apologize. So one of the managers that I have seen in my career who has made the environment psychologically safe is that sometimes manager jokingly himself shares something funny about him to make the team laugh. And he says that this is the mistake that I have done in past. And although you guys are laughing, I'm sharing this incident to make you learn by my mistake, so that he shows or expresses his vulnerability here, and he shows that he is also a human being. He can also apologize by making mistakes, and he can also learn and improve over a period of time. Right. So this is one of the ways that this particular manager has made his team a psychologically safe environment to express their opinion. Right. So did I make my point clear? Right. So the responsibility lays a big time with the managers. They can create the environment psychologically safe. And by the time manager, I don't mean only corporate managers. We have some participants over here. They have their personal life. So even as parents also, we are responsible for making our home psychologically safe so that everyone can express himself or herself openly without any fear that his neck or her neck will be chopped off. So I hope I was able to address the point that was raised by Abdul Qayyum.
That's a very important. You explained it very well, and you pointed out a very important aspect of personal life, that the concept of psychological safety does not only apply in corporate environments, but it's also as much applicable as your personal lives. So that's a very, very big value addition.
Okay, so then we would like to come back to our subject, which is creativity at workplace. Right? This is how our topic is. Abdul Wasif has raised his hand. Go ahead, Abdul Wasif.
I want to say that generally most of the mindsets go for caution before knowledge. I mean to say that caution sometimes makes a person psychologically unsafe. How? For example, if I get late to my class, I go late in my class by mistake and I sit over there. So I become cautionary that if I will speak or if I will try to communicate, one thing will come forward that one thing will come forward that I was late. I will not get a good feedback because due to competition that others were on time and I was not on time. I didn't have knowledge about it, or I don't know that how is the person whom I'm facing is, who is the person, because it's my first day or it's my starting day. So generally this person will be caution and he doesn't know knowledge. So generally speaking, everybody goes for being psychologically safe to keep his self-esteem or to keep his image. But in this case, what happened? Through time, this person is starting to go backwards, and this becomes a habit. Instead of rectifying the mistake or instead of becoming more safe.
All right, so I would like to ask a question here, Abdul Wasif, at this stage. So let's suppose there are two boys. Both of them are first years at their university or school. One guy is confident enough, and one guy is shy and not so confident, right? Now tell me, both of them have arrived late. The discussion was going on. Both of them have a similar question. Now I would like you to think back a little bit and then come up with how the confident boy will raise his point, and how the unconfident boy you have already mentioned, how the confident boy might raise his point.
If a confident person would raise this point, like he would try better. He would judge
Oh,
the condition. He would judge the
okay.
condition and then act accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
Try to let down
How?
his emotions,
Mm-hmm.
and to make himself safe, he might try to talk or start with like, "Sorry, sir, I came late. I want to apologize." And then he might try to make friends or be friendly in a much better way from his side.
All right. So let's ask our participants. So we would invite our participants to help Abdulwase and phrase a possible response from a confident man who has arrived at his workplace late or in his university late, whatever. So anyone can phrase a response how a confident person looks like or speaks up. In our live
If
virtual, we offer chocolate. Go ahead.
कॉन्फिडेंट पर्सन है वो मेरे ख्याल से एज ए विक्टर माइंडसेट होता है, तो वो अपनी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी समझेगा कि हाँ अगर वो लेट आया है तो उसकी अपनी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है, और वो एक्सेप्ट करेगा और अपोलोजाइज करेगा कि हाँ नेक्स्ट टाइम इंशाल्लाह वो टाइम पे होगा। और मेरे ख्याल से जो दूसरा सेकंड बॉय का आपने जिक्र किया है, तो वो यूजुअली ऐसे ही होता है कि जो साइकोलॉजिकली अनसेफ फीलिंग है वो मेरे ख्याल से वो विक्टिम माइंडसेट की तरफ ले जाती है, तो उसकी वजह से जाहिर है फिर क्रिएटिविटी पे भी इफेक्ट पड़ता है, कम्युनिकेशन पे भी यकीनन। तो वो मजीद बोलने के लिए इसलिए मतलब उसका जो उस वक्त रिस्पॉन्स होगा लेट पहुंचने पे वो डेफिनेटली उसी तरह से होगा।
Thank you so much for your input. So Sumaya Afzal, you have raised your hand, please.
yes, if I am late and I am a confident person, then I would say, yes, I'm late. I'm so sorry. But I would like to sit in the classroom. And I would continue with it. And if I need to ask a question, then I can say, oh, I'm so sorry. Maybe I just missed out. And the teacher would say, oh, you just missed out. I said, I apologize. And then I continue doing it if I am confident. But on the contrary, if I'm not confident, I would sit back in the back row, and I will almost like make myself invisible to the classroom that nobody can see me. So that would be the case. So it
Excellent
all
response.
depends on my own self-confidence. If I have the confidence, then I'll move forward and say, yes, I did it. Yes, this was my mistake. Yeah, but I want to be in the classroom.
Thank you so much for your response. Okay.
Great.
So for our corporate participants from here, I would like to recommend a book by Amy Edmondson, and the name of the book is called Fearless Organization. In Fearless Organization, Amy Edmondson has been the flag holder of psychological safety for last almost like 20 years. And the book is wonderful. It's full of examples. So I sincerely recommend that you read this book. Amy Edmondson, Fearless Organization. Thank you.
Excellent. So, Saad, I would like to share a personal experience here, since we're talking
Please
about.
go ahead.
So, it was around 2010 when I joined one of the largest companies in Saudi Arabia as a CFO, and I was responsible for a large team. And I noticed that when I used to meet any one of my team members individually, they were very creative, very upfront, very straightforward, and very full of ideas. But when I looked at the performance as a team, or the outputs as a team, that was very basic. No creativity at all old school things, everything done in 1950s fashion. And I really became curious to know what is going on in between. So when I started talking to different people at different level, I found out that the middle management, people who are responsible for sharing the information with me, were acting as they had created a power-oriented organization, and nobody who were reporting to them were safe enough to share their creativity or bring up their creativity to get it to the C level. And then later, about 6 years after that, I joined another company in the similar position. The first difference I noticed between these two organizations was that everything and everyone in the new organization was very creative. Everything was done in a very creative way, and then the things that were being done were very well presented and very well communicated with everyone. So then I started reading about the cultures, organizational cultures, and I found out that the primary difference between these two organizations was that of psychological safety. As Nirupay has mentioned, that the middle level management, they are responsible for creating this culture. So that's one of my personal experiences that I went through, and I saw it in two different organizations. Guess what happened with the first organization?
What happened?
They went out of business in 6 or 7 years.
Oh. Well, I mean, that's not very surprising given these days you need to have a very strategic thinking, fast-paced organization. Also, I see Hisham's hand is up. So Hisham, please go ahead.
Thanks, Saad. So I think Brother Nair has laid it out beautifully that the two cases, whether it's a problem or an issue with an individual, like low self-esteem, and they need to work on it, and the more common case that we see in at work, like Brother Omer is just mentioning that there is it's the environment, and the environment is not safe and does not encourage creativity and sharing the idea. I would like to share a story and then ask a question: how can we improve an environment that we see today in our organization, given that, let's say, we have the tools, we have the means to say we're in a position of leadership. I would like to learn more about how we can take steps to share that. So first, the story. In a corporate I'm working in, it's a software technology based. Everyone is very highly qualified, very amazing technical individuals. There is internal discussions. One person was asking for some support with a specific tool, and one person responded to him immediately, yes, I can help you with that. Let's set up a meeting. Everything was perfect collaboration. Then a couple of more senior persons started jumping in. Why are you using this tool? This is the worst tool in the world. You should not use this tool. We should not. And then immediately the discussion started to take defensive sides. He started to feel defensive. They started attacking him. I was watching the conversation for some time. I just wanted to ease the heat. So I just came with the non-authoritative way of saying, okay, I suggest we learn more about the requirements. Why did we need this tool in the first place? What are the pros and cons? Then we can discuss it in a more constructive way. And immediately the discussion ceased, right? It became like, okay. So I would like to learn more from you how to handle this situation, maybe on a one-off. That's not the thing I'm looking for, but how to change this environment into a more collaborative, a more safe environment. Definitely the technical skills are there. The desire to help each other is there with the team, which is sometimes it's not, but I can see in that specific team, it's already there. So how to create this safe environment out of the current situation?
Sure. So if I can suggest something, the first thing that came to my mind when it comes to changing organizational cultures is to start instilling a leading by coaching culture. So like, you know, what you were saying, you were a third person observing this. And sorry, if someone's not speaking, let's please mute.
There were some mics on mute, so.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, leading by coaching, right? So what is one of the foundations of that is being curious and open-ended. So if someone comes to you with an idea or a set of requirements, you don't immediately start to give your opinion or you start to criticize them or you say, no. You ask them more questions, right? So you say, okay, that's interesting. Tell me more about it. Okay, why do you feel this is the approach? Interesting. Let's look at how this interacts with the basis. So I think that's the first thing. Because psychological safety is a result of a bunch of things happening correctly, and it's really the result of something rather, and I think it's something that's constantly improved and shifts, and there's both sides to it. But I think, like, just to answer your question, Hisham, I think the first thing, like at organizational level, that a middle, like a manager or regardless of their level, can do is instill that leading by coaching. And the best way to do it is, what Coach Nair also said is managers can be an example themselves, right? So humble leadership is being curious as well. And it's interesting because one of the things, there's been a lot of research on this. So if a team is sitting in a room, the team members, they observe each other and they pick up cues, and this is how cultures are created. But the person that they pick up the most cues from is the manager. So if the manager is having a conversation with a person, and even if the other person is similarly qualified level as the manager, the person observing that conversation will pick up cues from the manager that this is how we talk in our team. This is how we respond. And it was interesting because one of the when I was thinking about this topic, there was a story that a manager shared. This is very common in new managers, right? Is that they feel they should have all the answers. So this guy got into his position, and he went into a mindset that he should have all the answers. And what they started doing in his team is they also started to feel the pressure that they should have all the answers. So anytime anyone asked them a question, they would feel I must have a response. But he noticed this, and as he changed his behavior into being more curious and open-ended, and also admitting when he didn't know the answer and saying, I don't know the answer to this, let's discuss openly as a team, or here are some suggestions, then the culture of his team also started to shift. So I see Coach Nair's hand is up.
Yeah, I would like to say something. I want to address the point that was raised by Hisham. So Hisham says that if psychological safety is an issue, let's say in an organization, what are the next steps? What do you do about this, right? So first of all, there is a small litmus test that comprises of only 5 questions, 5 basic questions. So and you can find these questions, 5 basic questions on Google. And this was the questions that came from the Google's 4-year study with on their team called Project Aristotle. And Amy Edmondson also talks about them. So 5 or 7 questions. So you can run those questions in the team. So by these questions, you will get to know what is the level of psychological safety in your team. So this is the first step. Second step will be that you start talking about this, and you speak to the concerned managers who are responsible, or in one way or the other, stakeholders to create the psychological safety. Once the managers are aware of this, aware of their role in this, I'm pretty sure that they can come up with the small little steps that can raise the level of psychological safety over a period of time. For instance, what are those small steps? After the awareness, one of the things that has proven that it's a proven technique to raise the level of psychological safety is team introductions to the personal level. For instance, let's say imagine we are all sitting around and as a team. So the questions to ask is where you were born, let's say. Sharing some small little details which has some element of vulnerability, which exposes the other person in a safe context. So once say where you born, how many siblings you are, what was your order in the siblings, what has been the most interesting challenges in your childhood, what was the worst job that you have ever got, and why do you call it worst? Let's say, what are your weaknesses, let's say, or something that you have never good at, for instance. So we have tried these small exercises with different teams, and trust my word, after this small exercises are done, people they became more closer friends than before with each other. So for instance, one guy, very funny manner he said that I am not good at navigation, so I always get lost in ways. Some people, when we ask them to provide their hobbies, they found in the same meeting, 2 people came up with the same or similar hobbies. So they started becoming friends to each other. So this is how you bring people close to each other in a relatively safe manner, right? So this is one of the second points that you can do to help people become close to each other and become more psychologically safe with each other, Right? This is on team level. So I'll repeat my steps. First of all, you do the litmus test. Then the manager will start doing something. And one of the steps is this, the one that I explained. Second steps, what managers can do is by sharing their mistakes, and this we talked about already earlier, by sharing their mistakes and helping other people that it's okay to make a mistake, and this is how you learn. Because unless you make a mistake, you don't learn. It's very simple. So this is how a couple of the steps you can do, Hisham, to provide a few basic things that can help you increase the element of psychological safety in the team at the first place. I hope I addressed your point.
I would like to add something to this.
Please.
One of the very effective action to increase collaboration among the teams and thus improve psychological safety, which I have done at different organizations, is increasing interaction between the team members outside of office and outside of work environment. And I personally gained a lot from doing this in my teams that I was managing. So that's something that just came to my mind, and I thought I must share.
I think that's a really good share, and it does have a big impact on psychological safety. We've been recently going out more as a team as well in my organization, and it's really helped us connect more. I just want to, as we're approaching towards the end of the discussion, I was hoping we could kind of narrow in on the creativity element of this, and how, why is creativity such an important part of today's work environment, and therefore why psychological safety is important. And one of the things that I think it's important to note is creativity is very closely linked to our sense of identity, right? And when we think of creativity, we think of conventionally, let's put it that way, we think of a hobby or art or writing. But in our day-to-day jobs, because everything is so fast-paced and the goalpost is constantly shifting, we have to be creative. And I think, Coach Umair, you gave a good example of that organization, which 6-7 years down the line, they went out of business because they could not keep up with the times. And creativity is a big part of keeping up with the times. And I think creativity is nothing more than an expression of yourself, right? Expression of your identity. So whether you're doing it in a work context, when you feel safe as a person, you feel like you can creatively express yourself. And that's what also has to do with moderate risk-taking behavior. So how does a team become creative and take moderate risks that can help it grow? It's by feeling psychologically safe, which means people can shoot ideas and say, listen, this might be a rubbish idea, but I'd like to put it out there. And sometimes, one out of those 5 ideas, they might be really good, and they might move forward. So I think creativity part of it is super important and very closely linked to how you feel. But also, I think Coach Nair mentioned something really interesting, that if it's not always that you can blame your environment and say, well, my workplace isn't psychologically safe. You also have to do an introspection about, what does it mean for yourself to feel safe? What are your values? What do you feel of yourself as an identity? Before you start to evaluate the external, you should focus on your locus of control and see how you can elevate that and develop some clarity around that. And so yeah, I just wanted to mention that point about creativity, and keen to hear your thoughts as well on it.
Faisal Bhai has shared the link of the study that you were mentioning earlier, Saad.
Oh yeah, okay, that's great.
Faisal Bhai has shared not the Google study. Faisal Bhai has shared the one which is a Ron Westrom model.
Ron Westrom model. Okay.
Yeah, Ron Westrom model of organizational culture. And one of the things, if you click that, and Hisham, you will find it extremely useful. It's worth reading. And Ron Westrom has done extensive research on organizational cultures. And one of the things that he talks about, by the way, he does not talk about psychological safety, but when you compare the 3 models of the organization culture, you will get to know which of them is psychologically safe, which is called the performance or generative culture, a generative organization culture, where people feel psychologically safe. And this is where I'm connecting Saad's point over here. When you talk about creativity, these are the organizations where the people save and their level of innovation and creativity is higher, because they feel that they will not be chopped off. I mean, their neck will not be chopped off, and they're free to, or they are open to express their ideas. So these are the organizations where novelty is welcome and entertained, and novelty is not considered, especially novelty means new ideas. So novelty is not considered a problem, but novelty is considered, is encouraged. Means you come up with new ideas and then you grow further, right? So for instance, let me ask a random question to our audience. So let's say, in your opinion, Toyota Motor Corporation, approximately how many changes do they make in their production lines in a year? Any rough idea? Toyota Motor, how many changes do they make on the production lines in a year? Please type your responses in your chat. So far, I don't see any response.
Can you please repeat the question?
Any wild guess? Come again?
Could you please repeat the question? I didn't get the exact question.
Yes. So the question is, how many changes Toyota Motors apply on the production lines in a year, in 1 year? Okay, hundreds. All right. Thank you, Hisham, for your response. The right answer is more than 1 million. More than 1 million changes a year they apply on their production lines. So how that is possible? If you average out, that means approximately they're making 100,000 changes in a month. So that means several thousand changes in a day. Every day, they're open to change. Means novelty is not a problem in Toyota. If something can improve their performance, they welcome the idea, right? So yes, someone says A.Ali to everyone means 10 million changes. Well, it's not 10 million changes a year. It's more than 1 million changes a year. And the response is from the book Smarter, Faster, Better by Charles Duhigg. It's a worth reading book where he explained a little bit about Toyota motor production. So coming back to the point, why is this happening? Why Toyota people or Toyota workforce, which is working on their production lines, why do they feel psychologically safe to raise their opinion? Right? They have created a culture where they welcome novelty and they welcome innovation and creativity and so on and so forth. Right? And this is how they have grown. Toyota is the biggest automobile manufacturer, right, globally. So they have done a lot of things in their culture to become what they are now. So it takes a lot of hard work and background work over a period of time.
If I can add something to this, sorry, if you have completed your
yeah, I'm done. Yeah.
If I can add something to this, I think another interesting part about the creativity and innovation is also risk management, even at a team level or organizational level, how the organization perceives and manages risk, right? So that's like, okay, we have this much room for you to be creative, and we acknowledge that we are taking a risk by going in this direction, and this is how we're going to manage this risk, rather than being very reactive or being very risk averse and trying to control and narrow things down a lot. I think that's another big aspect, and that cascades down, like how risk is perceived and managed cascades down into how creative and safe people feel, right? So I just wanted to add that point. I'm sure, for example, Toyota is an interesting example. And I think Toyota at this stage must have a lot of very intricate but well thought out processes that if one of the 1 million don't work out, here's plan A, B, C, D that we're going to do. Therefore, that gives their people that safety, that feeling like, okay, yeah, we can experiment, we can innovate, because there is room to make mistakes here.
Yeah, so Saad, this leads to another very important point that comes to my mind is that when you talk about creativity, another very important aspect of that is how the organization or how the organizational culture looks at failure. Because the Toyota example, not all those millions of ideas, most of them would be a failure, would end up in a failure, logically speaking. So being a creative organization, there must be, or it might, the response to failure would play a very important role in how failure is perceived at those organizations. So for example, if a failure is inquired into and looked into and found reasons for, then we're talking about a generative or a performance-oriented organization. If the failure is punished, then it's a different story altogether.
Absolutely.
So I see some hands
I
up.
see Abdul Wase's hand is up. Please go ahead.
Continuing with Coach Umair's talk, I would like to say here that psychologically safety and creativity will depend on the leaders. If leaders are allowing others to speak and others to bring up what they want to say, and they take out their the leaders take out their I, me, and myself, and everyone in the team take puts I, me, and myself in the garbage and thinks on the way of the department that or the organization, that what can I do better, what can I put myself, how can I put myself forward, without thinking that I am not better than I am better than others. When this comes that I am better than others, then this person, this leader will not let others to speak or let others to come up, and he will not accept others. Accepting others is one of the cause for creativity to come up, and changing that what Coach Nair taught about, changing the productive line, bringing change in the productive line.
Great, thank you. I think, thank you so much for sharing that. I think, Coach Umair, we should do a quick recap of what are the key things that we've discussed today as we approach the last few minutes of this chat. So shall I'd like to invite you to go to go
How about
ahead.
if you do that, you're doing very well today.
Okay,
So,
sure. That's fine. So I think thank you everyone for joining us and for the wonderful questions that we've received and the really insightful discussions. So just to recap, today we talked about, we kind of defined psychological safety, both in the literary sense and then also what it means to the different people on this call. And then we went into context of psychological safety at work, and we shared some stories about that as well. And thank you to all the coaches who shared stories of their real life experiences of psychological safety. And then we also talked about creativity, which is, what does it mean to be creative? What is required for people to feel innovative in an organization? And what are the consequences as well? We shared some real life case studies of organizations that have even gone out of business due to lack of innovation and because they did not have that high performing culture. We talked about the Google study and how it determined that the number one factor that differentiates high performing organizations is psychological safety. And then we also talked about failure and how failure is perceived and managed in an organization has a huge impact on psychological safety and how creative people feel. So this is like a really quick recap of what we talked about today. Obviously, there will be a recording available if you'd like to revisit any sections or please share it as well. And Coach Umair, would you like to add anything to what I've already said?
Sure. Thank you very much, Saad, for summarizing it so beautifully. And for our participants, it's a pleasure for you to have on board with us today. Please share your comments about today's session or any of the previous session or the upcoming sessions, any topics that you would want us to discuss in our next episodes of Corporate Majlis. feel free to visit our social media pages, our LinkedIn page, and leave your comments there. That'll be an honor for us. If you would like to speak to any one of us individually, you're most welcome to do that. There's a link in chat that we just shared. You just go to that link and book your free one-to-one session with any of our coaches. You're all welcome to do that. Having said that, we'll see you next in next 15 days with a new topic and a new exciting episode of MUMKIN Majlis. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Have a great rest of the day.